My name is Charlie G. Stewart, and my Indian name is Tatanka Iotake. I had a sister that joined the church at the same time, and we went on the placement program. I went to Jerome, Idaho. Went to another family my last 3 years of high school, and then seminary when I was in high school. Finished high school, I went to BYU. Went to school there for a year and joined up with the Lamanite Generation, went all over the United States. I went into Canada. Then I came home back to Idaho and went on a Mormon mission. I went to Texas, and Carlos Acey was one of my mission presidents, and then George Ryrie was another mission president my 2 years there when I was in Texas. That was a really interesting experience. Saw a lot about Mormons who were the missionaries anyway, and some of them very faithful, and some of them who really didn't, couldn't handle the missionary experience. But after we got married in Temple and Provo, I continued at BYU and got my bachelor's degree in psychology and my master's degree in social work. And so I was involved with the church activities at BYU, but I wasn't really called to anything. Never really had any really callings. I was a Sunday school teacher for a short time, and that was probably it of all of my experiences at BYU. 7 years at BYU. But during that time, before I graduated with my master's degree, I went to South Dakota for a couple of years. Took a job as a area director for the Seminaries and Institutes of Religion for the Mormon Church, and I was that for 2 years. But within days after landing in Pine Ridge, I was like returned missionary from BYU, Seminaries and Institutes of Religion area director and teacher. I was called to be the branch president. I was like the only male active Native American member of the church. The churches are different. The physical buildings are different from the way they are anywhere else, like in Mormondom. There's bricks and all of that, brick buildings, and they're very beautiful. Some of them are white, some of them are red, and really beautiful buildings. But we had a cinder block church house in South Dakota. I always thought that was peculiar. Later on in my life, when I got to see how things were as a area director, I got to BYU, never being called to positions, and there was always a stigma. There was, it was a real poor inertia. There was like you aren't going anywhere, and you pretty much really had to dance the step to prove that you're really something. So then I became a practitioner with LDS Social Services. And then at that time, I became second counselor in a bishopric. And then I was high priest. So then from then I went to high council. And that was kind of like getting somewhere, I suppose. There really weren't too many Native Americans in my position like that. So, but I began to see a lot of discrepancies about the way people believed and what their thinking was and all of that. And so I began to look at things real serious, because here I was bearing my testimony as a church leader and saying, live this way. It was hard for me it was kind of like an education that I was constantly doing to teach white Mormons what Lamanite was, because the way that they believed that Lamanite was the old archaic way, the way the Book of Mormon says that they were bloodthirsty, or that we were savages, and that we were ignorant, and that we were cursed with the dark skin. And so people still had these ideas that we were like that. It was like a hard sell to sometimes members of the Mormon Church to tell them what I am. I remember one time Paul came up to me and says, "Charlie, you're the exception." And I'm going, uh-oh. I'm like, okay, the way I believe and the way that I was thinking at the time was like, how could he say that to me? I have friends who are maybe not the exception. It's bigotry. It was like separating me from my friends. It's like saying that they weren't. And And I was like, he's former mission president. He's teaching religion at BYU. I'm married to his adopted daughter, who is a returned missionary. I was going, this doesn't seem right.